Girl. If you only knew. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you like beauty, gossip, lifestyle, a little bit of satire, and some dark humor, then you are definitely in the right place. My name is Carlisha. I am a 43-year-old transgender woman. Welcome. Welcome. So, this is going to be a new series called Questions with Carlisha. Now, I do want this to actually kind of turn into a like a podcast style situation where I could sit down with people and have some intellectual chats. Um, I did just film a Get Ready with Me. So if you like beauty, go ahead and check that out. It should be uploaded soon, if not already on the channel. So if you like that, oh, it's because I'm drinking Olipop. So I drink some more insanity. Okay, so house rules. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future uploads. And if this is something you like, feel free to sound off and join the conversation in the comments. Now, when I say that I want this to be like a sit down, like conversation podcast style series, it's because I really enjoy intellectual conversations. And I like to think that, I think a little bit outside the box and definitely am a woman who walks to the beat of my own drum. Now, I will say that I am. Why is Siri? Girl. Um, Now, I will say that all of this has been really motivated by someone that I have to give a huge shout out to, and that's Valerie Vision. Girl, if you're not speaking to me in the places you've been popping up, I'm going to go ahead and be a narcissist and just assume that you're speaking to me in the places you are showing up. When I say representation matters, representation matters. This girl has popped up into two different, I think it was podcasts or conversations. And what I keep hearing her like repeatedly state is that consistency is key. Now, someone like myself who's kind of, new to this YouTube space, but also a huge consumer of YouTube, seeing someone who's like you taking up space but also pushing out incredible content, it really inspires you to just get out there and make it happen. And speaking to, and I'm going to get to the Q&A piece, hold your horses, but when I talk about representation matters. And I'm just so excited for this chapter of YouTube where I'm seeing so many brilliant trans voices, brilliant Black trans voices take up space on YouTube. It's incredible. It's so nice just to see trans femmes just take up space. And to be even more specific, Valerie just recently was on a podcast and she said she identifies as transsexual. And that's because, by way of definition, that's someone who's transitioning by way of the binary. And honey, mi casa es su casa. But to speak to the representation piece, I have to shout out the trans girlies who are having incredible conversations on YouTube. And if you're not following them, tell them Carlisha sent you. So, of course, we know T.S. Madison. And if you haven't watched T.S. Madison, check out T.S. Madison's channel. And please, please make sure you're taking time out to watch Bag Talk with her, Maddie, and Craig and Mo. Mo is absolutely my favorite. I want so much, Maddie. I want so much like in the corner at all times while you guys are doing the fact talk that Mo needs his own camera. Like just think like early MTV. Like Mo needs or even like, oh my god, it is. It's like TMZ. Like just right here down in the corner. So like he's the operator. Anyways. Whoa. Absolutely love fact talk. A new one that is literally shaking me to the core is Femme Queen Crazy Sexy Cool, and we have to shout out Tabitha, Asia, and Temptress. They are having some incredible conversations. It's a bit ballroom focused, but I love these brilliant, beautiful minds coming together. These women are gorgeous, and they all have some conflicting views, which is nice. So it's not a bunch of the same, ideas and voices in the room. Like they bounce off of each other, and it's some good stuff. It's some good stuff. Also, let's get into it with Alexis Young. It's also a little ballroom focused, but they're really pulling the girls out and putting them, on YouTube and creating conversations. And it's nice to see the girls step outside of being just a pretty face. So many of us have mastered being beautiful. So many of us have mastered being sexy. So many of us have mastered just, our presence working the room. But it's really nice to see how so many of these brilliant beauties' brains work. So shout out to that. And then last but not least, Cat Black. I feel like she is my animal spirit. If you haven't watched Cat Black, first of all, she was probably like one of the first trans girls that I saw on YouTube. Loved, loved, loved Cat. I remember she was doing her filming style was a lot like MTV, where like she would talk to this camera and then turn this way and that camera was over there and she turned back to this camera. It was just so good. It was so good. She has a new style now, still amazing. Just she is so nuanced, so layered, so brilliant. So yes, shout out to the girly pops taking up space on YouTube. All of you women have motivated me and pushed me to take this jump. We're going to go ahead and get into it. I know that I'm not for everyone, but whoever I'm for, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. Now, let's get into the Q&A. Okay, so on my IG, at Carlisha underscore Giselle. If you're not following me on IG, feel free to follow me. I posed just a really open ended question, and it was if you could ask me anything. And I got flooded with questions and statements and comments that were fascinating, but I picked the best and I said I'm going to answer them. But I will say this, I noticed some people like literally will be in my DMs and they're like having full on conversations with themselves. And you guys, if you're not familiar with the definition of insanity, the definition of insanity is like short term, it would be doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if you keep asking me the same questions and you're not getting a response, you're either asking it incorrectly or you're just not going to get a response. Amen. Amen. Okay. So our first question was, how many tattoos do you have and which one is your favorite? Now this one's fun because if you know me, I am a tattooed beauty. Stop. Um, but at this point in the game, I really don't know how to like count them anymore. Like for example, like my knuckles say rock star. Is each individual letter a tattoo or is the statement a tattoo? And then like my lower sleeve, it was done in 3 pieces that all connected together. So is that all one piece? Like how do I count it? How do I even how do I even count my tattoos anymore, you know? Excuse me. Olipop is kicking my butt. Like how do I even? So, but funny story about my tattoos. I always knew that I was going to be a tattooed girly from a very, very young age. I believe my first tattoo, I was 14. My cousin took a needle, wrapped thread around the needle, and we dipped it into pin ink, and I got delicious tattooed across my left butt cheek. And then I got sexy with a pitchfork for sexy devil. So original. Stop on my arm, right? Not all of those are covered up, but it's just like I always knew I was gonna be a tattooed girly pop. Now my first, like, legit, like, went into a studio at 18. So embarrassing. I got, Nympho in my tramp stamp area, and, you can thank my madre for taking me in to go get that tattoo. But yeah, that was my first tattoo. So the next question, am I single? So if you're new here, hi, how are you? I am in the adult entertain in the I am in the adult entertainment industry. I do adult cinematography, and dating in this space is so wild. And to be honest with you, because prior to adult work, I worked in corporate cosmetics. And, initially when I transitioned and with the influence that were around me at that time, my idea of transitioning was along the lines of like the devil wears Prada. I just knew I was going to transition and I was going to land a husband and we were going to adopt and I was going to be, you know, this corporate giant within the brand that I worked for. And that literally was my dream, like a home in Malibu. Like that literally was my dream. Um, but once I started doing the adult work, I saw a different side of the beast. Now, I will say that before I started doing this work, I definitely romanticized and was super open to dating. And you know, I did date and I was open to dating, but I just see everything so different now, and I know that when I think about my story and I listen to other trans sisters' stories, I just feel like I'm, like, hustling backwards, as some people may say, because most girls do, like, the sex work. Most people what's another word for this? The adult work. I do the adult work, and, you just really see the belly of the beast, and because I'm now in a position where I can take care of myself and, um, like, you really make a sacrifice, and because of the way I'm represented online and because of the ways you can see me, I just don't know if I can wrap my head around dating someone and the type of mindset someone would have to date me. Um, and then also, I'm not one-dimensional, so, like, to date me would basically mean, like, you're dating me and not the persona, and then, like, it would need like, the feeling needs to be reciprocated, so I'm just not willing to settle, you know, just to have a boyfriend, just to have someone around, and I'm just in a place where dating sounds great, it would be nice to have someone, as my special person, all that, and however, really not looking forward it for I'm really not looking for it, and I, yeah, I guess I say all that to say I'm very single, but it's absolutely by choice. It's because I choose my peace, I choose my stability, and, because although and however I do adult work, I'm a hell of a human being, and I'm the type of person that I would wanna date. So, because I've done the work to be the person that I actually would wanna date, I need that reciprocated, and I need someone who can be gentle with me, who is patient, who understands the nuances of, you know, the trans expression, and someone who's already done the work on themselves as I had to do the work on myself to feel comfortable as myself. So I'm not holding anyone's hand. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your mom. If you're gonna be my partner, you're gonna be my partner, and I get to be your partner. Okay? So because of all of that, She's single. And she's gonna stay that way and until it's time. So the next question is, would you ever be open to dating someone you don't normally date or who's normally not your type? What's interesting about this question, so in theory, I don't have a type. I look for like mental capacity. So like emotional maturity, morals, integrity, values. I look for like a competency level. I look for a strong communicator. Now, I will say because of these things that I find attractive, I tend to end up with like the nerdy kind of a guy. I've dated um, like a photographer, and I also dated someone who was into like was in law, and I'm trying to be very cautious with what I say. Um, but yeah, so I tend to like really be into intellectual type. Now, if we're saying that's not usually my type and framing it um by way of all of that, I guess like if you're like a reformed like thug that has left all that urban shit. Oh, sidebar, BT dubs. Kylie needs to do better, but this gloss strip, shit. Um, yeah, if you're like a refurbished homeboy, you're no longer into that like urban shit, and you're like a super intellectual and can stimulate, motivate, and you know, teach me some shit, I'd totally be open to that. Hell, if you were like a nerdy cowboy or a nerdy construction worker, just be like have your shit together, but also have a brilliant mind and integrity and morals and values and emotional intelligence and comprehension skills. It's not really like I'm not the girl, I guess because I've just completely decentered men so much. I I'm not the girl that's like, "Ooh, I like dark-skinned men, I like light-skinned men, I like white men, I like Latin men." I like a man who has his shit together, and that's not something that can wow me because of a six-pack or, like, pecs. Like, if I wanna jump off, I can get a jump off. Like, you guys are all in my DMs. So, I can have that at any time, but when it comes to again, when it comes to dating, like, I'm sharing my life and all my goodness with you. You fucking better be worth it. Next question. Why am I not married? I feel like I just answered all of that. Like, now this is the thing. Like, what girl hasn't? Like, we grew up on rom-coms. What girl has not romanticized about her wedding? I went on this trip. I went on this trip uh, to Hawaii, and I was doing makeup. It was a celebrity job, and the wedding was at Lanai on Lanai. It's an island outside of Hawaii, and there's two resorts on it. One of the resorts is the Four Seasons, and the Four Seasons Lanai, their wedding packages are phenomenal. After I left doing that makeup job, I literally, and this was years ago, we're talking like early 2000s, they have been saved. Aloha Lanai Four Seasons wedding package is bookmark. Yeah, because that's always been the fantasy. But I'm not just getting married to get married, and I don't just want a union just to want a union. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want someone who wants to marry me because they want to marry me. And I want to marry someone who I actually want to marry and not because I want to frickin' post on whatever social media I feel like I need to show off that, oh my God, a man loves me. I love my fucking self. How about that? So when it just comes to men, and especially with what I do, again, it's not just like these patriarchal check marks that I'm even focused on. Like, I just don't operate within that space, and I can't give any of that energy because that's just not my narrative, and I don't subscribe to it. I'll subscribe to it when someone's subscribing to it with me, and that's something we build on together, and we get to that like aha moment of like, oh, we're going the long way together. And then that could be brilliant, and I'm totally open to that. But until, just not my focus. I'm not subscribing. Next question. Favorite constellation? I love this question so much. And if you don't know what a constellation, it is a group of stars in the sky. And with it being, oh my God, this is the first time in like history, I think on the 19th of this month is going to be the first time we're going to be able to see multiple planets in alignment in the sky. And this happens like every thousands of years. Super exciting. But what I love about this question, so like as a Virgo and a crazy intellectual, I've always been a bit of a stargazer. But again, because I'm 43, I grew up in the generation where we had to go outside. So I was the kid that literally would hear time to come in because like you could not find me. I was in the creek. I was going after pollywogs. I had a little hut that I made. I had a fort. And I was that kid that absolutely played by themselves. So looking up at the stars, and then the more I learned about them in school, the more I became obsessed with them because just like information is like key and stuff like that just really excited me. So when I saw this question, it really hit home for me because like at first I was gonna think of like some like crazy one that I've learned along the way, but I had to really tap into my younger self. Like I had to really tap into my younger self, and I remember like in elementary school being that kid that, you know, because I was, what some people may say was a kid who didn't fit in. Honey, I was walking to the beat of my own drum and I was stargazing. And some of the first constellations that I used to look up to were the Big Dipper and Orion's Belt. So when I saw this question, I just thought about that young me who was just like looking up at the sky and just realizing it's so much bigger and like the sky's the limit and it's got to get better. And it did. And it will. And it will work it cuz you're worth it. Okay, so next question is biggest turn on. And these kind of questions always are just hilarious to me. So, because it's like repetitive, but I think it's important to know that um, I had my testicles removed. So I don't have that testosterone pool that has me horny all the time. The moment they took my testes was the moment that I became that you have to connect with my mind to connect with my body unless it's work. Unless it's when there's money involved, lights, camera, action. Like I can not a problem. But to turn me on, it like loops back to like am I single? Why am I not single? What's my type of a situation. My biggest turn on is like a man that can connect with my brain. But if okay, so hypothetical. And I'm not a hypothetical girly. Like that's not my zhuzh. But if we were just looking at like aesthetics, I like a man with size in all facets. It's my biggest turn on. But originally my biggest turn on is a man with mental. Um, Next question. Are you Yoruba? I saw this question and I got so excited because I'm not Yoruba. I'm actually Igbo. But when I found out I was Igbo, it was just one of those fascinating situations. So I'm Afro biracial. My father is African American and my mother is Italian American, specifically Sicilian. And with my father being African American, originally we didn't know our African lineage all that. And however, it became like a running joke with one of my siblings about how much I connected with Nigerians, and it was really fascinating. Originally, it was pointed out to me by one of my Nigerian girlies, that the men I kept pointing out to her, she was like, "Girl, he's Nigerian. Girl, he's Nigerian." I was like, "Oh my God, is that like my judge?" And she was like, "You're attracted to the like Nigerian phenotype." And then it got even more specific, like a certain tribe's phenotype. And I think it's so important to understand that Africa is a continent, and West Africa doesn't look like East Africa, doesn't look like South Africa, doesn't look like Northern Africa, doesn't look like Central Africa. And each country actually has its own traditional dishes, has their own phenotypes, has their own culture. But coincidentally, I was really into Nigerian men. Now, my sister and I, we share the same father, different mothers. So she decided to do the ancestry in me with her and her sister who share the same mother. And then she also was aware that she and her sister didn't share the same father. So she was able to do process of elimination. Long story short, she was able to realize that the Nigerian in her chart came from her father's side. We share the same father. So as soon as she found out we were Nigerian, um, she called me and was like, "Don't get too excited, kid. You're Nigerian." And just to take it a step further, sis, you're actually also Igbo. So the moment I found out my cultural flag on my father's side, it gave me a new posture. So finding out that I'm Nigerian Sicilian, just put a little cocky in my step. And I'm very grateful for my Nigerian heritage, as I'm very grateful for my Sicilian heritage. It can be conflicting at times. Don't get me wrong. It can be very conflicting at times because Christopher Columbus was Italian, and you know how we feel about that colonizer. But okay. And last but not least, do you have a child? I had a fur baby. I had my son for 12 years, and I'm eventually going to do a deep dive on him and remembering him. I'm literally in the process of redoing his bedroom. It makes 6 months next month to him passing. Again, I had him for 12 years. I will say a dog teaches you, if you're a real committed like pet parent, if you're a real committed pet parent, dogs teach you what unconditional love is, and there's just something so powerful when it comes to just taking care of them. Like, I miss my baby every day. There's times in the night where I get really sad, where I just miss him. There's moments that I forget that he's no longer with me, and it's just, you know, like a habit to like reach out, or if I assume that he's in the small of my back and I realize he's not, or I'll hear and I'll think that he's running somewhere. So it's been really challenging, you know, losing my baby, but that's the only child I had. And because having a fur baby is like a child, it's not something like I can just go out and get another dog to replace him. I'm still digesting the loss of that personality, the loss of that energy, the loss of that responsibility. I've noticed in the last 6 months, I have become a bit of a hermit. Knuckles had me on such a schedule of like waking up in the morning, taking him for walks, going on all these runs to make sure he was going to his doctor's appointment, so on and so forth. And I don't have that push anymore. So I miss being a mom. I miss being his mom. And the best part of my life thus far was being his mom. That's the last of the questions. We did it. You guys, this was fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it this far, give me a yellow heart. This has been way too much. So I was going to film another video, but we're having recording issues. Thank y'all so much. Sound off in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And until next time.